So this is a different translation of The Art of War, just out here in the woods. It's pretty cool. It's kind of fun to read while you're just in nothing but nature. So this one, he adds a little bit more, kind of makes it like a fuller translation, gives you, without having to have any really interpretation. So I kind of like this instead of reading verse. Verse is kind of hard. This book 4 he calls How to Think About War. In ancient days, warriors made themselves unbeatable by constant practice. Knowing they could never become invincible, their efforts enabled them to see the vulnerability of intended victims. They did not think in terms of beating the enemy by overwhelming him with boastful actions, but rather they saw that the reality of extending their skills through the enemy, which they acknowledged as the same thing as physical combat. They were also aware of their own limitations. They constantly practiced, knowing there was no other way they could make the enemy vulnerable. The enemy had to do that himself. Because a warlord knew how to win does not mean that he did, but he did know that the enemy had the same attitudes and would be seeking the same results. Regardless, he continued to practice until he became the very object he was seeking, and in doing so, learned that if invincibility exists at all, it lies in the attitude of attack, offensive or defensive. To properly defend, the attitude must be that of a thorough attack. To depend strictly upon defense means that there is not enough strength or purpose in your heart. To gain victory, you must be assured of yourself and attack with all your heart. Warlords who have mastered defense attack from hidden places and assure their own success. They know when, where, and how to make the attack while defending their positions at the same time. These men of high perception rely on obstacles they have set up for the enemy. In understanding the attack mentality, they never permit the enemy to know where the attack is coming from. They attack like lightning and are relentless in their purpose until they have beaten the enemy or have been thrown out of the land. They take no prisoners and do not expect to be spared themselves. Warlords do not see war as an extension of the court etiquette. Men of war see victory where most men see nothing. They see victory in creating difficulty for the enemy. They foresee victory when the enemy cannot overcome his own inadequacy. This is the only reason for the warlord's existence. If the warlord has visions different from this, then he leads in title only and will accomplish nothing. It is imperative to lead for the people and not for yourself. The people will praise you when they realize the greatness of your actions. The warlord creates situations where his troops can perish if they fail. He does not let them know he is doing this, and is sure to keep their best interest in his own heart. He is always in the same place he sends his men. He ignores the general's outcries and maintains his convictions and authority. The troops may be frightened, but they follow him if they feel he loves them. If you understand the needs of the warriors and proceed in this fashion, you will be successful. If you don't, you will fail. In acts of desperation, troops will fight as if possessed. They will see no alternative but to succeed or perish. Ancient warlords always beat the enemy when it was easy to do so, because they planned properly and foresaw victory. They did not gain recognition as masters of war during the active conflict. They knew not to fight when it was difficult, for that would have been foolish and cost them greatly in terms of men and resources. Even if the battle was won, they would have lost the respect and confidence of their men. It is always best to permit the enemy to defeat himself with little effort on your part. You should encourage him to destroy himself. You must be very subtle in this attitude in order to reap the rewards of the enemy's overconfidence. Make sure of his ineptitude by understanding the initial attack mentality. The heroic warlord knows when and where to position his troops for maximum effect and least effort. Be a warlord with vision. Those skilled in the arts of war permit the spirit of the heavens to flow within and without themselves. They do not try to coerce heaven into thinking in their own favor, but seek to do that which they believe and accept to be the correct action of heaven. The wise and great warlord never goes against heaven's decrees. Heaven makes itself obvious to the man of wisdom. When the seed of endeavor is planted with authority and conviction, heaven will instruct him in the proper behavior to gain his desires. Heaven does not move when the man of wisdom wants it to move. He must reflect upon his attitudes and positions in life to see if there's some more appropriate action and intent to be gained through further reflection. If he can think of no other plan of action and truly believes that his cause is just, heaven, by its very nature, will see his truth and will rush to bring about his dream. This is the nature of the universe. It has no choice but to cooperate with a man of true belief. He always keeps in mind the requirements of success in any endeavor. His attitude permits the heavens to see more clearly into the warlord's true desire. He will have shown the proper respect to the heavens by knowing the virtues of a noble. He is aware of the distance to be traveled on earth and in heaven if victory is to be attained. He knows how far he must travel and knows how far his troops must carry his desire. He loves them openly and cares for their needs. He knows the value of the supplies to be carried into battle and those that should be left behind as reserves if heaven should turn aside from his favor. His calculations of manpower are estimated by considering the strengths and weaknesses of each warrior's ability. The warlord knows when each man is in proper position and with weapons he can use. He does not make archers of cooks. He considers the costs of battle on all levels. He examines the possibilities of defeat as well as victory. He does not place himself or his men in positions of needless danger under any circumstances. This is not to be confused with placing troops in positions of peril where they must fight well or die. When these virtues are understood, his excellence will cause him to emerge victorious from conflict. His armies will revel in glory and see him as a great leader. He will acknowledge their tribute, but will not dance in his own light. It is because of this understanding of these things that he will see his men fight with fury, joy, and expectation of victory. As a result of this mentality, the warlord will be respected by his enemies. Study this significant aspect of the warlord's mentality completely. It contains the genius of accomplishment. That's pretty cool. There's another book by Carlos Castaneda. Kind of reminded me of there's this concept of doing by not doing. It's hard to explain, but you kind of have to read the book Journey to Each Line. It's IXTLAN, and I'll kind of give you an idea of what the not doing is, but basically he's kind of alluding to that in here. It's pretty neat. But yeah, risk, it seems like risk is something you need to have in order to have success. If you're not committed enough that there is risk, then there won't be success. But being rash, of course, is not the right course either. So like, if your troops succeed, they'll succeed, and if they don't want to commit, then they'll fail. And so that makes your warriors always, I guess, 100% committed. There's no hesitation. That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's a good business model.